Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. This is a podcast that invites you to remember who you are, return to yourself, and rise into your highest and best soul self. Every week, I will be sharing inspiring conversations about topics that hold keys to your awakening. My mission as an international evidential psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and intuitive mentor is to help you rise into who you were born to be. Enjoy the show. Hello, welcome back. Happy New Year to you. I'm Amy Brooks and so grateful for this day, to be here, to be talking with you and being in your company. Thank you so much for taking the time out to download and to listen. I so appreciate you. How is everybody doing so far? We're 11 days into the year when I record this. 11, so we're 1/11, January 11th. Lots of ones in there. We are also, today is a new moon in Capricorn, and I certainly have been feeling that. I am a Capricorn sun myself, so just had my birthday 2 days ago, turned the big 44, and I'm definitely feeling an energetic shift. And I don't know if it comes just in general with this week, or if it comes with this new moon, or if it comes with this new year of life for me, this new trip around the sun, or if it's a combination of all three. But I'm feeling this really big shift. And it feels great. It feels really, 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 really good. I want to begin quickly. I'm having a little bit of a computer issue here. So hopefully we don't have any problems here. I want to look into numerology for just a brief moment, because we are 1/11 today, and also the energy of 1 being January. This episode will come out in a few days, so we'll still be in January. My life path number is number 1 as well, and because I just experienced my birthday, I feel like all of that together feels aligned. So let's see the energy of number 1 and what this new moon in Capricorn happening on 1/11 is kind of ushering in, what January is ushering in, what this life path number of number 1 is ushering in. I will tell you that was the number. So if I add up my digits of my birth, so the month, the date, and the year, the 4-digit year, it breaks down to number 1. So that's how you figure out your personal year, like your numerology for your year of birth, which stays the same forever, right? But you can also look into your personal year number based on the year that it is. So there's a 9-year cycle. So you're going to break down the numbers to get either a 1 to a 9, any of those single numbers there. And I am in a personal year 9. So that's big, apparently. That means that I am really wrapping up and finishing what I started over these last 9 years. Okay. Which is something that I'm definitely contemplating and thinking about. I've been told that there can be big shifts. I read somewhere that new jobs, new places, that like a big move, all of that stuff is very possible. Changes in where you live, changes in where you work, all those kind of things can be possible in a year 9. And then if you're not following the breadcrumbs, so to speak, or the red flag, so to speak, about things that you need to release, things you need to embrace, well, then the energy of the year 9 might do that for you. So, we know it always feels better to act on those impulses and make those choices and decisions for ourselves, even if they're tough, than to have them, made for us by the universe. It always feels better to have a say in the matter. So, yeah. So somebody recently said, "Oh, it makes sense why you didn't move last year then, because this is year 9. So of course she would be planning a big move in year 9. Just get goosebumps." So yeah, that makes sense. So let's stay with this for a moment and talk about number 1 in numerology. So it is the number 1, the very first of all numbers, puts power directly in our hands as a symbol of independence, confidence, and new beginnings. Okay. There's a lot of motivation and momentum surrounding this single digit number. It's a true pioneer, ready to break ground on new endeavors and pave the way for others to follow. It's a natural leader and proactive force. And, it's just a number of creation and birth, fertility. It's the root of opportunity. So that's what this month of January offers us. Maybe that's why it was chosen to be, the new year in the Gregorian calendar. Speaking of the Gregorian calendar, something else I want to talk about. So we know the Gregorian calendar was created, put into motion, I feel like in the 1400s. It may have been the 1500s, but, a long time ago. But I feel like a pope. I feel like that's right. I didn't do the research. That's just, my own awareness coming in. And a lot of people are like, that's time is made up because this Gregorian calendar is literally made up. It's somebody setting dates and times. And that's what we go by. But, before that, there was another way to keep time, right? So I find that interesting. And that concept has been coming up a lot for me lately. The concept that I'm speaking about, I just looked down 555, loving that, seeing a lot of 555s lately. The concept of cyclical living has been coming up a lot for me. And I actually saw somebody, I saw a reel, I think it was on Instagram, and it was somebody kind of saying, I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say that January is a slow month and, we should be like nature and we should go in and hibernate like the bears do. January is a motivating month. I feel go-getter, blah, 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 blah. And I appreciate this person's sentiment, but I feel like they're misunderstanding at least my interpretation of cyclical living. So Spirit has been dropping little, downloads into my awareness for over a month now about embracing more cyclical living. And I'm noticing it show up a lot in the collective consciousness. So I'm noticing other creators, other mystics talking about cyclical living. It's showing up in people's awareness. Cyclical living to me does not have to equate or be the same as seasonal living. And I think this person that created this reel was really speaking to seasonal living versus cyclical living. They can be different, right? Seasonal living, okay, so if we are like nature, plants don't grow above the ground in the winter. They go dormant. A lot of animals will hibernate. There's a feeling of slow down, retreat, rest, healing. Okay? Certainly, that's one thing. But cyclical living or embracing a more cyclical lifestyle, in my humble opinion, is more about listening to your own cycles. So you may feel go-getter energy right now. You might truly be tapped into this new year, new me energy, and you might feel like you're on fire. Or you may not. You may be someone like me who feels more alive around the autumn equinox. I've always been that way. I feel more myself. I feel more in flow. I feel more motivated, more inspired, happier, all the things around that time. You might not. Embracing more of a cyclical life is about embracing your own cycles and knowing that they may be very different from someone else. But our society and the way it has been structured does not allow for that. Imagine if we did have a society that allowed for that for everyone in the collective. People like myself who are entrepreneurs, I feel, are in a way kind of showing the way that it could be, especially in this new wave of entrepreneurs, right? I've only been an entrepreneur now for 5 years, almost 5 years. And it's been a learning process, certainly. and will continue to be a learning process as I, peel back the layers of 40 plus years of conditioning around how we work, when we work, etc. But for me, this is a real relevant topic of conversation. So I'm glad that Spirit's taking me here. This takes me back to a conversation that I had yesterday with Karen. Shout out to Karen. I know she's a loyal listener. She's a subscriber to the bonus content, and she is a client and a pal. We were talking yesterday about the gene keys. So she is just really diving into the study of the gene keys, and she is loving it. Definitely a gal after my own heart and going down the rabbit hole. And so we were chatting about this, sharing each other's profiles, etc. And this kind of got the wheels turning in my mind after the conversation we had around the way I feel, the things I feel are changing within me this year, the shift that I'm feeling in this brand new 44th trip around the sun. And I literally went into my Instagram stories last night, and I talked about this as I was cutting up vegetables and making supper. And I was talking about how I'm feeling spirit and my own higher self shift my direction when it comes to time and making time, creating time, right? When we're intentional with our time, like if we take a moment of silence, have you ever noticed that 60 seconds can feel like much longer than 60 seconds because you're literally taking an intentional moment of pause? So that tells me at some level, we have a little ability, a little wiggle room when it comes to time. Maybe we can create time. What do we think about that? We can create pockets of time, pockets of mindfulness. All the numbers today, 1212. And so, that's where my focus has been. And what's been coming up in my awareness a lot is, why am I holding myself back? Why am I keeping myself small? Why have I not taken initiative to start some of the things that I've been wanting to do for years? What am I waiting for? And if you're in the same place, I'll ask you, what are you waiting for? And for me, after some reflection, I realized that I need to create time for those things, that I feel like I don't always have time. If you know me, you know that one of my biggest triggers in life is feeling like I don't have time, or time is running out, or if there's like a deadline looming. Stress city. Okay, so time. Okay, so let's think about time. I need to create more time to make space for the things that I really want to do, the things that light my soul on fire. I did a card pull the other day. I don't know if you're like me, but every year I get a brand new notebook. And so if you're watching on YouTube, this is my new notebook. And I just kind of put random things in it. I've got a page in here about my word of the year, which we'll talk about in a moment. I've got a list of the books that I read this month, so far 2. I just kind of want to keep that documented in here. And then I did what I called chapter 44. So this is something new that I just did this year, and I did it on my birthday. And I intuitively went to my bookshelf that has all my oracle cards on it, and I picked 3 decks out. And I intuitively chose 2 cards from each of those 3 decks for a total of 6 cards. And then I journaled about it. And then yesterday, I contemplated it a bit and shared it as a post on my Instagram. And rather than, write it all out handwritten in my journal. I just printed it out and pasted it into my journal. And so I'm going to read it to you, if that's okay with you. So, because it really breaks down the messages of the cards and the focus of the year and connects back to this feeling of time and shifting and making room for what I want to do. So it says, Chapter 41. I revisited the book Magic Days to sit with the message of the day. Contemplation, stillness, presence, all intentions of mine in this chapter 44. I cannot escape the messaging of cycles. It's in my birth chart, my human design, my gene keys, my numerology. It comes up in my meditations and my contemplations. The medicine for these cycles, I've discovered, is being present out of my mind and into my body. Presence leads to flow, and flow leads to trust. Trust leads back to presence, the ability to be present, and then back to more flow. Learning to adjust my sails is a major component of my soul's evolution. Autonomy also shows up everywhere for me. My life path is one: to lead, to teach, to know oneself by knowing oneself. Actively knowing. Embracing the shadows and the light. This reminds me of a quote my grandfather wrote in a card he gave me on the day I graduated from high school. He wrote, "All sun and no rain makes a desert." It took me years to fully understand the medicine in the statement, and it takes me right back to cycles. I decided to start a new birthday tradition and pull some cards asking Spirit what I need to know, learn, and embrace in this chapter 44. Some obvious themes: total transparency and authenticity, clear communication from the heart. This aligns with my intentions of blogging more and writing a solo book. Focus, a laser light focus on goals. Perseverance and courage, following what lights my soul up and trusting that it may change and evolve as I go. Cycles again. Enthusiasm, shadow work, releasing conditioning around smallness and not enoughness, facing my triggers more honestly, facing my distractions and fears more honestly, finding balance, shedding my skin, restriction and expansion, once again cycles, freedom in my mindset, allowing myself to rest. In brackets, I've discovered I can let myself physically rest, but never truly experience mental rest. More time in nature for stillness, meditation, back into the body and out of the head. It feels like this year, a personal year 9, which is all about releasing completion and what's been learned over the last 9 years before a new cycle begins, is wanting to be learned through active periods of time out, rest, healing, and stillness, allowing my mind to rest and releasing conditioning around worries, and taking the bull by the horns and getting laser focused on my goals and intentions, making shit happen. No holds bar. But in order to reach that level of productivity that I desire, I've got to give my mind a deserved rest. So those were my contemplations based on the cards that I pulled with the guidance that came through for this 44th year of life. And so, based on that, based on the contemplations that I've been having, what I was talking about in my Instagram stories last night was that I'm thinking about creating more time to get those things done that I've been saying that I want to do for years. So, and this takes risk. This involves risk, I feel. Because number one, I have to move through any fear resistance of working less with one-on-one clients. So what my intuition is telling me is, rather than being open for clients, Monday to Friday, 12 months of the year, that I should put my calendar out more, 1 month at a time. So I might have January open, then I might not work in February. I might only work a week. Then I might be fully open in March, maybe fully open in April, and then May, something is feeling it, need to go inward a bit, work less. Obviously this is a way to actively embrace cyclical living, because I will be checking in and asking myself, what is it this month? Right? it's a perceived risk because obviously if my books are closed, there's no active income coming in. But at the same time, my higher self is asking me to move through the resistance of that, knowing that the payoff for following the breadcrumbs and doing what lights my soul on fire, which is writing more, right? Blogging more. I want to finish the solo book. I will finish the solo book. I'm also been saying for years that I'm going to create a mediumship course. You know, you guys have been asking me, can you teach mediumship to us? Can you create a course? And I haven't made the time to do so. So this is the year to do that. This is also going to be a big year because we're going to do a cross country move in the summer. So, you know, time moves quickly, right? The years fly by when you really think about it and you break it down. It's like, I really have to do this in order to, you know, take that time to work through any resistance. Money mindset comes up major, right? Because I have to work with my money mindset and the fears I have of, oh, you know, what if I don't work as much? Will we be okay? But also knowing if another year goes by and you don't work on those things that you said you are dying to do and you've committed to do, how will that feel? And I realize this comes from a place of privilege because I do have the freedom of choice here as an entrepreneur to choose my schedule and to choose to work more or less. And I realize that comes with privilege, and I'm very grateful for it. So that's where my mind is, you know, and that's me really and truly embracing cyclical living. That's where I'm at in January. I'm feeling this shift, like I said, for my 44th year on like, it's time to get real with yourself. And I did mention this in one of the past episodes, recent episodes, the one that's called What to Leave Behind in 2023 as you move into 2024. I'll link it in the show notes if you missed it. I talked about how Spirit was giving me a feeling that some of us were going to be really facing our shit this year, right? Some of us are gonna feel some unease this year as we're sitting with our resistance to being still and our resistance to just being and present. That's a major piece. And I do feel parts of my year, certainly, and truly based on this card pull, are going to be about that. So those moments, the pockets of time when I embrace the fact that I'm not feeling super productive, or I need that time to go in, and I need that time to process and to rest, etc. You know, that's when I'm going to be in probably facing that resistance of, oh shit, you know, like, oh shit, like when it gets still and it gets quiet, what am I going to face? What am I going to learn about myself? What's going to be revealed, right? That can be scary. That's why a lot of people are like, I want to do the work, but I don't really want to do the work. Because then once it's there, there's no turning back. Once you've got that awareness, it's like, you've got to move forward. You know, life is not the same anymore with this newfound awareness. So it's a responsibility, right? And I feel like part of my life, part of my year is going to be that. I think part of my life, you know, I'm the left angle cross of cycles. That's my incarnation cross in human design. My life is about cyclical living, right? No wonder I talk about it all the time. And the other half of people I felt were going to be more fueled by their fire and lit up and like, it's go time. It's time to make shit happen. And that's a little bit of my year too, based on the cards. And what it was basically what the cards were saying, my interpretation of them was, hey, in order to have the level of productivity and motivation needed to accomplish those two big goals of yours, as well as do a cross-country move, you're going to have to take those pockets of time out to focus on those things, or you know, to heal, or to, you know, move through whatever you're going through at that moment. And that's a big leap, you know? And so, I mean, this energy came in for us a month ago. We knew it was coming, and now here we are. Speaking of the energy of the year, does anybody have a word of the year? I started doing this. I've never been a resolution gal. I used to do that in my teens, my early 20s, but now then I kind of went completely against it. I was like, no, resolutions icky, And then the last couple years, this is the third year that I have created a or tapped into intuitively a word of intention for the year for myself. And so back in the end of 2021, right before 2022, I intuitively heard, the energy of this year is perseverance. So this is a year when you persevere through any setbacks, any perceived failures, when you take a chance, take life by the horns and go. And I certainly felt that energy come through in 2022. And then last year in 2023, the word that came forward for me was enthusiasm. So I wanted to find joy more often. I wanted to just embrace all of life's upside downs, ups and downs. Maybe it feels upside down sometimes. I wanted to embrace that with more enthusiasm. I wanted to run towards enthusiasm and really, be enthusiastic about what I'm doing and bring that energy to my work and to the people that I serve, that I'm enthusiastic about it. Right? I was moving out of the shadow of like, I want to be an expert. Certainly that's nice. Yeah, I want to be an expert. But like, when do you become the expert? Right? If you know that the journey just continues forever, when do you ever become an expert? Like another person could perceive you as an expert, but when do you personally ever feel like an expert? That was a contemplation I was having this time last year. And I realized, you know what? I feel like it's a better goal to want to be like someone who is enthusiastic about their craft because you feel the energy. If there's like a so-called expert sitting in front of you talking about their field of study or expertise, and they're like, their soul is on fire and they are excited about what they're doing, you're going to feel that. And you're going to be like, I want some of that. And so I wanted some of that last year. I just got goosebumps. I wanted some of that last year. So embraced enthusiasm. This year, the word came to me intuitively. Once again, I was actually in the bathtub. This is not surprising. I am a bath kind of girl, especially in the colder weather. And I often say, if I need to shift energy, if I need to, have some sort of clarity come in, if I'm feeling confused about something, not clear, if I have a bath, usually something drops in, right? That channel of water really, really, really works for me. And so I was in the tub, and what I heard in my awareness, what dropped in was learn to just be. Learn to just be and be present. And I thought, yep, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I need to do. So this year's word is presence. Presence, which I absolutely love. So yesterday, I think I brought up Karen a minute ago. Shout out to Karen, that she was talking about gene keys. And so that kind of got my mind going around the changes that I'd like to make, which I just spoke about, dealing with my money mindset. And then, because of that conversation, I dug out one of my books, my Gene Key books. This one's called The 64 Ways. It is, some people call it the White Book if you're a Gene Keys fan. The books are huge, right? There's a big blue one, there's a big white one, and the big white one is contemplations, like transcriptions of Richard Rudd's contemplations on each of the Gene Keys. And I like it because it's just one more way to absorb and understand the energy and what each gene key really means. And I'm someone that works a lot with words and language, and spirit will often communicate by way of symbols and metaphors, and things like that. And that's the way that he speaks. So, he brings two things together in a way that helps me understand. So if you're studying the gene keys and you want one extra kind of layer of understanding, I definitely would recommend the 64 Ways, which is called Personal Contemplations on the Gene Keys. So Karen and I were talking, we were sharing each other's profiles. We were comparing, we were looking into which of the gene keys we shared, and there was 3 or 4 that we had the same. And one of the ones, so her life's work is gene key 33. which is an amazing life's work. And I have Gene Key 33 twice in my profile. So it's the only one that shows up twice in my, main profile. Gene Key 33 is called the Way of Mindfulness. And it's my vocation, which is where I need to take initiative and how to do my life's work. It's also my attraction sphere, which is what I tend to attract to me, or, what's magnetized to me. So Gene Key 33 is a big deal for both myself and Karen. So we're talking about this. And I read this before bed last night. Okay. I was reading all about Gene Key 33 and it blew my mind because of this one part. Okay. So let me find the part that I really want to read to you. This is essentially about creating time, right? It's about, where's this part about the tea? I want to read that to you. In Chinese culture, there's a wonderful term called, please forgive me if I got this wrong, Huigan, so Huigan, which means to reflect sweetly on a past event. Time is given over to this custom, and it's part of the teaching of ancient tea drinking tradition. So it's about being in the moment, but it's also about reflecting back on something in the past, something that brought you joy, something that brought you excitement, just a good memory from the past. When we think about those things intentionally and actively, and we bring that into the moment, it's like we're experiencing it all over again. And certainly at like a cellular level, at an energetic level, we are, right? So I thought that was really, really beautiful. And one of the other things I highlighted here is, if we don't let our awareness come to a rest, how will one see what's really going on in their life? How will we learn what's being offered to you? How will you know if you don't ever take the time? That's really resonant to the guidance that came through in that episode I spoke about that I recorded back in December. I'll link it in the show notes. So the Gene Key 33 is about paying attention, right? Let's listen to this, and I'll leave it here. The 33rd gene key is like coming to a clearing, having wandered for months in a dense forest. It's like coming up for air. In the clearing, there are always clues hidden in certain places about how to find our journey out of the forest. Okay. Now I'm going to bring your attention to something that I wrote, a personal, for lack of better words, I'll say blog that I wrote. I wrote this on March 4th, 2019. Some of you may know that March 4th, 2019 was the day that I launched my business. It's my business birthday, March 4th. So I wrote this on that day. Get a load of this, okay? It's called A Clearing in the Forest. Imagine you're walking in a deep, dense forest, even the same language, dense. The snow is heavy and your legs are tired from trudging through. You feel like time has slowed down to a sluggish pace since you've left the comfort of your usual familiar surroundings. I don't know why, but this is bringing up emotion for me. You don't know how exactly you got on this jagged path into the dense woods, but here you are, and there's something pushing you to keep walking. You're being pulled by some invisible thread further and further. You stop a few times to look around. Where am I going? Where are you leading me? I hope I don't get lost. You start to doubt whether you took the right path. Should I have taken a left back there, you wonder? But you keep going. Something in you tells you that you cannot stop until you get to where you are supposed to go. Finally, you reach it. A clearing. It's beautiful. It's springtime now, and the snow has melted, and everything is lush and green. The air smells of new growth, soil, and sunshine. There are fields of sunflowers to your left and a rolling river to your right. This place feels like magic. This place feels alive. I'm going to cry. You thank your lucky stars that all of that work, trudging along through the heavy snow, led you here. You've arrived. Then underneath I wrote, hey, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Well, not exactly new, as I've been trudging along the forest for over a decade to get here. This public acknowledgement of it is new for me. I hope you enjoy being here with me. I don't know where we're going. Wow. But wherever it is, we are on the right path. Amy Brooks, March 4th, 2019. My mind was blown as I read about the 33 third gene key, my vocation, which is where I initiate how I do my life's work, and also what's attracted to me, like the energy of that. And I was just like, wow, the language, the same words, the same concept, the same idea. Gene keys were not on my radar whatsoever until 2021. So it was just like, what a beautiful validation of following my soul's call. And I just wanted to share that with you because I was just like, holy crap. Wow. That's the gift of mindfulness. That's the paying attention, the doing the work, the art of noticing. Speaking of money mindset, I was looking up an article. This is on cbc.ca, so it's like literally the Canadian news. CBC is Canadian Broadcasting Company. And I was just Googling and I came across this. I don't usually put too much stock into personal horoscopes, especially in the newspaper, but I found some of these things interesting. So this is about the new age of Aquarius, right? And so it starts off by saying the most significant transit in the year kicks off on January 20th when transformative rather Pluto enters forward-thinking Aquarius. Pluto is a generational planet, meaning its movements are slow and its impact are often powerful. So use this transit to experiment with a new, more humanitarian way of living. So the planet of rebirth will dip back into Capricorn where it's been since 2018 on September 1st. So from January 20th to the 1st of September, it stays in Aquarius. Then it dips back into Capricorn where it's been for a long time. And this is when we really will help us wrap up lessons that relate to our worldly resources. So I definitely feel like some big shifts are happening in the world, especially when it comes to matters of power and those who are in power in our world. I think we'll see a lot happening post September 1st. You heard it here. And then Pluto will re-enter Aquarius on November 19th and will stay there until 2044. Okay, so it's going to be there for a long time. 20 years it's going to stay in Aquarius. So we've all heard about the Age of Aquarius, right? This is when things like, I once heard an astrologer, what's her name? Her name is eluding me in this moment. Deborah Silverman. So if you haven't heard of Deborah Silverman before and you're interested in astrology, you might want to check her out. I heard her on a podcast once talking about the Age of Aquarius and what that means from an astrological interpretation. And, Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto is a transformational kind of energy, right? It has a lot of power. It likes to shake things up, right? It's not afraid to dismantle. It's not afraid to break shit. It's like, this is not working. So when Pluto moves into Aquarius for a good 20 years later on this year, this is when we are truly dismantling things that keep us small and feeling disempowered and powerless. And Aquarius is very focused on the collective. It's focused on humanitarian efforts, equality. It doesn't give a crap about status or labels. Deborah Silverman on this podcast I was listening to was talking about how it makes perfect sense in the lead up to this that things like gender are much more fluid, being experimented with much more fluidly, where people are like, I just am. I am don't want to be labeled by my gender. I just am. And having more of a choice about that and taking a stance, you wouldn't probably have seen that happening 20, 30 years ago, right? This is the age of Aquarius. So things that we think matter now that are keeping us small are probably going to be leaving us over the next 20 years. And this is the great shift that all the great mystics talk about. This shift, it's like it's the biggest shift ever if you think about it. The biggest shift ever. And it might be scary as everything around you might feel like it's, changing shape, chasing form, or just going away, but it's leading us to a more humanitarian place, a more safe place to be. All that to say, I will include this link in the show notes. I gotta make a note or I'll forget to do that. When I was scrolling down here, I took a little gander and I looked at the Capricorn prediction for 2024, and a couple things stood out to me because I was like, interesting. So it says, you're known as one of the zodiac's most ambitious players, Capricorn, and starting on January 20th, you may feel the urge to direct some of your tenacity towards creating a more secure financial foundation for yourself long term, which we just talked about, with transformational Pluto entering your second house of value and security. By the way, my Pluto is in my second house. So that's its natural habitat anyways, okay? Beliefs that you once held about money, just talked about money mindset shifting, could also start to shift during this period, forcing you to shake up your strategies for growing your income. What did we just talk about? Use this moment to consider how you optimize your wealth without sacrificing your comfort. It's a trust fall, baby. I got that song from Pink in my head. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Love that one. Then when Jupiter, which governs your spirituality, conjuncts Uranus, your money ruler, in your fifth house of creativity and pleasure on April 20th, you could feel inspired to seek out new ways of engaging in your community and supporting causes that are close to your heart. Fundraising, volunteering, and sharing your talents can make a real difference, so don't underestimate your influence. We'll see what day of the week April 20th falls on, because that could be a nod to a good time to launch something. Just saying. So that kind of blew my mind because I'm like, whoa, money mindset. Pluto is moving back into my second house, the house of value and security. No wonder I'm thinking about changing things up when it comes to the ways I make money or planning to make money in the future, right? No wonder. Thought that was so, so cool. One last thing before I leave you, because this is a longer episode than I had planned, is I want to look up the energetics or the numerology of 44, because I did talk about feeling a major shift. If you forget, I just turned 44 2 days ago. And I was feeling and have been feeling for months that 44 was going to be very, very significant for me. And then on my birthday, I had 3 or 4 different people message me and say, welcome to Club 44. By the way, hold on because 44 is powerful and it's going to knock your socks off. And I was like, oh, you're validating the energy of definitely how I already feel about 44. So let's see what 44 says. This is the first. I want to find a good angel number 44. Okay, let's go in here. It's a blog. It's called A Little Spark of Joy is the blog. So I'll give that person credit. 44 is about, no, this is absolutely not the right. Okay, here it is. 44 symbolizes spiritual and material balance, abundance, resilience, and hope for the future. 44 recognizes hard work, signals financial stability, and urges balance between work and personal life. Did we just talk about that balance? Going back and forth with my schedule, embracing the cycles. Numerology interprets 44 as an amplified power of prosperity and completion because it's double fours and materialistic gains. Yes, please, I'll have more of that. So yeah, the energy is supporting it. The energy is supporting it. I want to look at one more. Reflections on turning 44. Let's check out this website because, I don't know, it fits. MyMetaReport.com says, transforming double death into blessing. So she says, this was written back in 2019. Today is my 44th birthday. Numbers have different symbolism in different cultures. 44 double death. The Chinese consider the number 4 unlucky because the word 4 is nearly she uses a word I can't pronounce, to the word for death, 4 death, 44 double death. My immediate reaction was, I don't even want to think about that. But my mentor offered, maybe you can view it as a necessary death to whatever needs to die as part of your rebirth. Of course, that would be what it is. So she's talking about constant cycle. Whoa! And themes: destroy to create, death to rebirth, the clearing for what is to emerge. You can't make this stuff up. No wonder. No wonder I picked this article. The clearing. Entering the clearing. What needs to go? What are you dragging through the woods with you that needs to go so you can find the clearing? I'm going to leave you with one more thing. I did talk about it in my stories recently. Something that's been coming up in my own awareness, but also in quite a few of my clients' 2024 energetic reports and their guidance for the year, their yearly readings, has been a term that I never use, but it's one that I've heard so often from Spirit in the last week that it's giving me pause for thought, and I'm thinking about it. And I'm going to leave you with it. And that is cutting the fat. Okay? Where can you cut the fat in your life? What is excess? What is not necessary? What does not align? What is causing stress, illness, disease, dis-ease in your life? Where can you cut the fat? And I'm going to leave you with that contemplation for this week. Where can you cut the fat for the rest of the year? What can you take out of your backpack that you've been carrying that's not necessary for the rest of the journey? It was helpful before, right? We have to have gratitude for the past, and we also have to have forgiveness for the past. So we can't beat ourselves up for coping mechanisms and habits that we had in the past. Maybe they kept us safe, or we needed them back then. But what is dragging us down? What is weighing us down that we don't need to take to us as we find our clearing? Okay. Have a great week. It's been lovely. And I loved this episode. I hope you enjoy it. And I will see you again next time. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider hopping on over to wherever you listen to your podcast and giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much in advance. If you'd like to keep in touch, please head over to my website, theintuitiverising.com, to keep up with all the things that I have been doing. I also have a private Facebook community for people just like you. It's called the Intuitive Rising Community. All you got to do is request to join, and I will let you in. Keep rising.